Hey. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Winephabet Street. Deb and I are back. We had a little hiatus trying to get a wine for the letter M, but we are ecstatic because today we are virtually, I wish it was in reality, but we are virtually heading to Argentina for the letter M of Malbec. So, hey, Deb, it's been a while.
I know. Good to see you. Good to see Veronica. I'm excited to be back. I've missed our monthly chats.
Yes. This is our wine education, true education thing where Deb and I also get to learn. And so it's exciting for us to be back. But for those of you who do not know, I am Lori Budd, one of your co-hosts here. I am a Spanish wine scholar, WSET Level 2. I am a champagne specialist in the Côte d'Aron. And I kind of own a winery, one of those things, in Paso Robles, where we specialize in Cabernet Franc. So if you are around in Paso, come on to downtown and give our wine some taste. And Deb, who has a longer list of things that keep her busy.
That long. Not longer. I'm Debbie Giaquindo. I'm known as the Hudson Valley Wine Goddess. I'm a wine writer, blogger, educator. I'm a certified specialist of wine, a wine location specialist in Port and Champagne, and a certified cherry wine specialist. I'm chairperson for the Hudson Valley Wine, Spirits, and Cider competition that we just had 2 weekends ago at the Hudson Valley Wine Fest. I own a restaurant in North Wildwood, Trio North Wildwood. We are open through New Year's Eve. Now that it's fall, our hours are just Fridays and Saturdays. And I don't know if I left off anything. Oh, I just became a grandmother.
Congratulations.
Yay!
Thank you. I have a granddaughter named Juliet Giaquindo. So,
Yay.
yeah, that's it. Veronica?
And Veronica.
Perfect. Well, ladies, thank you for having me. I'll try to be brief. I'm an original Argentinian who actually fell in love with wine during my university studies in Paris in my early 20s. And once I graduated school, I was not in wine, despite my love of wine. I was working with retirement plans, and it wasn't, about 8 years out of college that I said, this is for the birds. I have to do what I love. I quit my job, got accepted to INSEC Bordeaux to get a master's of wine marketing and management. Because I was with the French, I love the French, worked with the French for quite a while, really working with Bordeaux as one of my original clients. And then I was picked up by my people. They found me working with the French. So in my role for Wines of Argentina, I am the U.S. and Canada area manager, where really my role is to provide wine trained professionals more opportunities to learn about Argentina, the unicity, the diversity of our wines, and just really connect people to our winemakers, to the region. And ultimately, my job is to share my passion of Argentine wine to everybody and hope they get the bug. So, in a nutshell.
That's
All
great.
right. Well, we are hoping that this webinar helps get that bug out there and gets more people to be familiar with it. So we are thankful that you had the time to come on and to share your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
All right. It's Elmo time, I believe.
That's time for us to mute our mics and let Elmo do the talking.
Uh-oh.
I have it in here.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's been a month. We There we go. And there we go.
All right.
Veronica, unmute yourself.
Audio. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Got me?
Yeah.
We're all good.
I
You
said, I
like
want to drink with
Elmo?
Elmo. I love Elmo. I want to drink with Elmo. I have a story about Elmo.
You
My
do?
husband dressed
Oh,
up as
share.
Elmo for my friend's first birthday when he first came to the States. It's hilarious. So Elmo is part of our life.
Oh,
That is great.
yay.
Do you have Elmo with you, Lori?
I don't because I'm down in Paso and
No.
Elmo is in Fresno.
Oh, bummer.
I
So
know.
anyway, let's getting started. Veronica, you touched on how you started and your people found you. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, certainly. As far as I was doing education and sales for French wine, right? So basically, worked for a French importer, worked for a French company, doing again promotion and education for a region that's really, Bordeaux people are not very familiar, especially newer consumers, right? So, working with them and a company that I had worked for was Cepexa. I worked for them for a great many times, and Argentina started looking for a representative in the market. And so they reached out to Cepexa, and my former colleague, Valerie Gerard, said, listen, we got this girl for you who has been doing it for the French, and she's kind of one of our own, but she really is one of yours. And so I started working. I interviewed with my friend Argentina back in 2018, and we started working. As far as me managing, working the relationships with the importers here in the United States. And after a year and a half during the pandemic, they expanded my role to work not just with the importers here in the U.S., but the wineries in Argentina, as well as expanded my responsibilities to oversee the Canadian market, where again my responsibility is to create marketing programs, create opportunities, or get connected with opportunities to bring Argentina to the forefront of the trade, right, and get them whether they be at the Somm share of mind, as a buyer share of mind. And doing events to get people really, again, educated, excited, and really propel Argentina to where it needs to be, which is we are a premium wine region. What we are considered a new world with old world practices, right? And just a ridiculous real estate as far as viticulture. And so I need to share that with everybody so that they can, get more excited and start buying more Argentinian wine. So again, any programs there are with retailers, with sommelier conferences, we're there.
All right. And so we're here to talk about the Malbec. Now, before we get into this, I just want everybody to know, because you are Wines of Argentina, we want everybody to know that there is more to Argentina than Malbec. So we don't want people to just go, oh, well, all there is Malbec. It's mighty fine Malbec. But there is a lot more to Argentina than just Malbec. So, but we're just focusing on Malbec today because it's the letter M. It's the month of the letter M.
And we'll take it. We'll take M.
And then, so you said that you had a passion for wine, even though you went into, that other realm for a little bit. Yeah. How did you fall in love with wine? Just because you're originally from there? Is it instilled into the culture?
Well, first of all, my father, I will tell you, in Argentina, he was again, even though it wasn't Malbec, my father was a big drinker of Cabernet Sauvignon, as he would say with his accent. And we emigrated in the early 80s to the United States. So wine was part of the culture, but here he would actually make it like a spritzer, right? Just to extend the utilization of wine, right? So he would have it with dinner. I was drinking it in holidays as a spritzer. My aunt would pour me, some red wine with 7-Up, and we thought we were really cool. Never truly appreciated it as a kid and never really longed for it because it was something that was accessible, right? But it wasn't until I studied in Paris where I started taking little side trips. So I would take my first side trip was to the Loire Valley, interestingly enough, which has Malbec. But I fell in love actually with Vouvray, right? Chenin Blanc from the region. And then, and it was a sparkling stuff. It was like more the sweeter, the demi-sex, what you get started as a newbie wine drinker. So it was a great region. And then, from then, one of the second or third trip was Saint-Emilion. And that is where the love began. I'm a right bank Bordeaux girl, as far as my initiation of love for wine. And so, doing these trips, I just fell in love with the industry as a whole. But it wasn't until basically 8 years later that I thought that I'm like, heck, I can do something with it. I can do something in the industry that I love. So, but it really began just a visit. It was Saint-Emilion, the region really that put the love.
Yes,
The love in
that
that.
is where my heart is, in Bordeaux too. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
My cheeks hurt when I was there because I just was smiling the entire time, and just it is so beautiful there and so historical, and that's where in Bordeaux, that's my heart also.
Yeah, and I mean, just the village is so quaint, and
Yeah.
and I think part of wine, and I'll bring it back to Argentina, that it's the culture, right? It's not just the wine, it's the lifestyle, it's the food, it's everything about it, right? And so you fall in love with not just the wine, but everything around it.
Absolutely.
In that sense.
Absolutely. And so we're here to talk about Argentina. So before we get to the wine, which, Deb, we didn't clink, but it is 10 o'clock
Oops.
for me.
My wine's
it's somewhere in the world. It's afternoon, whatever they say, right? What is
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
This is what happens when we take a month off. We forget to clink.
I know.
So,
So
anyway,
cheers, everyone.
Cheers,
Lancha.
Just the nose.
I've had this open a little bit, so it's actually this is when we'll get to the wine, we'll talk about it. But yeah, this one has to be aerated because it's opening up really nicely now in my glass.
Mine's been open for an hour.
Oh,
so.
I poured in the glass a half hour ago because I poured in it.
Yeah, it's because I'm like, ooh. And then,
this is nice.
All right.
Yes, it is a beautiful
the only
wine.
thing I've had in my stomach is yogurt and apples, but
we're keeping the fruit line. Grapes. It's all good. It's all good.
Yes. All right. So before we get into the actual wine, let's talk about Argentina itself. Where exactly is it? How big is it? Because it's a cool country of how it's
designed, right?
Yeah. Designed, right?
We have a nice little aspect there,
right? It's like
yeah.
And maybe some fun facts that people can remember about Argentina.
Certainly. Well, Argentina is located in the southernmost corner of South America, the South American continent, and it's about. And by the way, I will speak kilometers and miles, because I still don't know kilometers, but it ranges about 38 kilometers distance from extreme north to extreme south. That's about 2,300 miles from north to south, and about 878 miles east to west. So the surface itself is about 1.7 thousand square miles. So that's pretty vast. We're the 8th largest country in the world, 2nd largest in South America, just following Brazil. And the diversity is as vast as the size of the country, right? We go from really diverse terroirs, natural beauty, warmness of people, and just a great place to go visit. But those who have never visited Argentina, which I hope everyone hops on the plane, by the way, because the exchange rate is really favorable. So it really is a great time to go to Argentina. Plus, we need those dollars down there. It's a country of tango, of the traditional empanada, which to eat, and each region has its own, much like wine. Each region has their own empanada. We are the land of asado. Wine is our actual national drink. Go figure. Wine is the national beverage, our national drink. So this is why you go if you're a wine lover. And of course, part of our culture is football, not, which means football, soccer. And of course, as the champs from the Qatar, World Cup last year. Now we got Messi here in Miami, so we'll get Argentina back up in the north.
No, I was rooting for Argentina too, because I have a friend from Argentina.
I tell you though, what's disappointing on Saturday, Messi did not play that Miami Atlanta game. So some disappointed people who paid $2,000 for their tickets. But that's another story. This is what part. So basically, we are the land of. Again, we're talking about the culture before, and I said it's not just the wine; it's the food. For us, it's the culture: the asado, the tango, the football, the wine, the people, the region. So it's a beautiful package if you want to have an amazing experience. But you got to get on a plane. It's about 12 hours. You guys are different part of the country. So
Yeah.
for you, Brenda, it's about to get to Buenos Aires about 10 hours and then another hour and a half to get to Mendoza. Easy peasy.
Uh, Piece of cake.
A
Yeah.
piece of cake. We all go tomorrow.
My bags are packed.
Ready. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we touched on, we're here for Malbec, but what are the other grapes grown? There's other grapes grown, because I know at the seminar I went to early on this year, I had a great Chardonnay from Patagonia. I was just like, oh my God, down there it's so cold, but this is like, and there was very few wines. This was awesome.
Yes, we grow, brace yourself, over 200 varietals in Argentina, probably more. We even do Gruner Veltliner. So, I mean, that's a different story altogether. That was a transplant from Austria that got discovered in Argentina. But we have about 200 varietals. The most prominent are the same ones that are here, right? Malbec is our leading grape, but we do Cabernet Sauvignon, amazing Cab Francs, Chardonnay, Pinot, great sparkling wines. And again, those are blends, right, of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. So it's not a varietal, sorry about that. But we make over 200. We have also Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, anything and everything. What it gets most exported, however, is our flagship varietal, but that is not, that's almost, Malbec itself is as varied as the country itself. So if I may, when I talk about the grapes, also talk a little bit about the terroir and why we have so many grapes, if I may.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, throughout the whole country, it's just not in one region. Like, and I said,
Right.
Patagonia, and there's all different areas.
Exactly. And just so you have a perspective of this, really vast piece of land, we plant, and again, hectares say nothing to me, but maybe it says something to people, 207,000 hectares of vines that we have in Argentina. And we have 28 regions that make up the country. 18 of those actually produce wine. And within that, so that's why when we say Mendoza, it's like, or Patagonia, it's like, wow, there's 18 regions, and within that it gets even more broad. But we produce wine between the 23rd parallel and the 45th, which and this is for the CSW exam. Brenda, you probably remember this, or for WSET, what are the parallels for growing wine 30 to 50? Well, we break the rules. And the reason we break the rules is because on the 23rd, what happens is what we lack in latitude, we go up in altitude, which permits us to make that gap, right? And produce wines beyond the standard parallels of winemaking. And that's why, I'm getting off tangent here. When we talked earlier about Salta, not only is it picturesque, it's picturesque because of the mountains, the beauty of these subterranean soils that were submerged millions of years on the water that are now peaks of 10,000 feet and higher. And so anyway, so we make, those 23 provinces, 18 of those make wine between those parallels, and the scenery changes, right? So while Malbec is produced all the way from Patagonia, which is in the 45th parallel, to up to the 23rd parallel, because we're opposite of the hemisphere, right? So when it's like this versus this, it's sometimes confusing to people. But Malbec is king varietal, right? Because that's the one that actually has it's the most diverse, most adaptable grape that we have. But in cooler regions like Patagonia, and by the way, the north is also cool, right? We plant Torrontés, and people think, when I talked about varietals, I skipped our indigenous varietal, which is Torrontés, which is known, it's in the region of Salta, right? Cafayate, the Calchaquí Valley, which is about 6,000 feet above sea level, because we plant in the valleys up that high. There we do Torrontés. In cooler climates, we do Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Franc. So all these, they are representative throughout the entire 18 provinces, if you will, but all representing a different style. What they have in common is where they're planted. Most of the vineyards are planted within those 18 provinces at the foothills of the Andes. I say that, and there's an exception, because there's always an exception, right, ladies? So we have the next to Patagonia, that Atlantic region, which is closer to Buenos Aires, closer to the ocean, Mar del Plata, where they're doing new innovative plantings. But again, here, the climate is very different because it's not as arid desert as we have in, by by the foothills of the Andes, but we get into more Atlantic. Well, it's an Atlantic climate, right? Because we're right by the ocean. So it is a very diverse region. So for every grape that is grown, Malbec is in every single region of these 18 provinces along the foothills and the Atlantic. So long answer. Sorry.
No, that's awesome. And
there's more. No, I'm just kidding.
And if you do it in the next 5 seconds, you'll get them.
That's right. You'll get it. Yeah, no, crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I don't know, Debbie, did you catch that? It's the 23rd parallel, right? So that's significantly lower than what is typical.
Right.
So awesome.
And again, what is so cool, and this is a thing that I think people, once you start dabbling in, you're like, oh, God bless, all what I knew is out the window. There's so much more to know. And again, because we're on the Andes, it's a tropic of Capricorn where we're actually making wine. So you would think you're closer to the equator, right? But you're also in a cooler climate because you're up the mountains. At that parallel, though, to be very, very frank, we're upwards of 6,000 feet above sea level, 10,000 feet, and people that are on the line right now, when I say 10,000 feet, I like to give perspective. That is the ding of the plane that says it's safe to use your electronic equipment. That is how high.
I love that perspective.
Right? But that's how high we're planting. So that's what allows us to go beyond limits. Actually, that should be a tagline, beyond limits on our next episode. Don't take that. Don't take that. No one on this call. Yeah. I'm going to use that somewhere.
I like vineyards at the ding of the airplane.
I like that too. That's kind of funny. Yeah, but it's perspective, right? Like people don't realize, because unless you're making wine or really into geography and geology and what have you don't.
Right.
Elevation is not something you keep in mind on a daily basis.
That is true. That is true. So we have 3 wines that Wines of Argentina was generous enough to send us, and so we have Susana Balbo, which I have had the wine before, but not this label. So that was really interesting. So I'm excited to see that, and then. So I'm not doing them in the correct order, but
so you can,
right. And then we have Bodega Argento, just so the people who are watching, because we have several people on today.
The first one you want us to taste.
This is the first one we're going to taste.
Yes.
Okay. And then we have the Alta Vista.
Yes.
Okay, so that is I just wanted to put those labels out there for the people who are watching either live right now or on the YouTube channel, so they can actually see these actual labels. But we're going to taste them, but I just want to make sure we have time where you can give a little bit of background on each of these wineries. Unless you think it might be better to wait till we taste each one when you do it. I just wanted to make sure we gave them their time.
I think I can go briefly because we can talk about some of the distinctions of it. It's not long. I'm just going to just a brief little synopsis of each winery. And that way they can move along but we acknowledge them, and then hopefully we get to taste them as they're elaborating in a glass right now. They're phenomenal. The first one, and for those in the audience, we have 3 different vintages. We have Argento is our youngest wine, which is a 2021. Then Marco Sin Límites is a 2020 vintage. And then the Alta Vista Alba Veneve is 2018. I like to taste in age order when possible, and also because we have different regions. So Argento is in what we call the Primera Zona, right? In Luján de Cuyo, which is also a DOC. We have 2 DOCs in Argentina and 107 GIs, but we'll talk about it later. But so the Bodega Argento, it is a single vineyard, Finca Agrelo organic Malbec, and it's located in Luján de Cuyo in Alto Agrelo. So I don't have a map, and I apologize, but the ladies will be getting a whole presentation of 176 pages that they can share with everyone who is interested.
All right.
And Alto Agrelo is in Mendoza. It's in the foothills of the Andes at a range of 3,200 to 3,500 feet.
Okay.
Right. And it's all organic production, organic and sustainable wines. They were founded in 2012 with the premise of offering the best of the region in a bottle, if you will. And they look for maximum expression of organic vineyards by careful selection of micro terroirs. You know, we talked about Mendoza being best. Like we have many micro terroirs, and we'll get to that later. But this wine is also made with minimal intervention to achieve pure organic and classic style. So this one, to get perspective, again, Luján de Cuyo, Agrelo, the vineyards are from the winery itself from 2012. They make spectacular wine. And Deborah, when you mentioned the Chardonnay, you most likely had from the sister winery in Patagonia, that Chardonnay. From the region of Chubut, because it's the same group, different wineries. The second wine that we have is Ben Marco, and Ben Marco is from Los Chacaches, which is in the district of San Carlos in Valle de Uco, Mendoza, right? So we have the big one is Mendoza, the second is Valle de Uco in the district of San Carlos in Los Chacaches. So we get very, very, very precise here. This is where this winery is coming from. The winemaker is Eddie del Popolo, amazing guy. He's one of the world's top viticulturals, named the terroir hunter. Yes, he's the terroir hunter. So if you ever see him, you can refer to him as such. No, I'm kidding. But Ben Marco Sin Límites, or Without Limits, it's an organic Malbec. It's in collaboration with Susana Balbo, the pioneer of wine in Argentina. She was one of the first, not just female winemakers, one of the first leading winemakers to bring, to really work on quality and bring it to, for export. So this is a collaboration with her wines, and this stands out in a league of its own when it comes to soil-driven profile. They use an, again, hands-off approach. This wine doesn't have any sulfites. It avoids the sprays of pesticides or herbicides. So it's really an interpretation of terroir with a very, hands-off, clean, truistic or holistic approach to winemaking in a sense, right? And again, this one, the altitude is about 3,900 feet in elevation. So this is higher than Bodega Argento, right? So we're about 400 feet above the Argento here. And the last one is Alta Vista. It's located in Campos de los Andes, which is Valle de Uco. Again, Valle de Uco, you're going to hear a lot of it, a lot of wine coming from there. This cool terroir. If you see a bottle with Valle de Uco, you got to get it. Luján de Cuyo, the same. There's some regions that you must know if you want to really get to know Argentina. Stylistically, they're very different, but important for different reasons, different aspects that they give to the wine. This wine actually comes from, again, 3,600 feet above sea level, so right in between Ben Marco and Argento as far as altitude. But again, these last two, Valle de Uco, different districts, if you will. But Alta Vista was the first winery to produce single vineyard the terroir management. So they are kind of like the leaders in that sense. And for them, they look for distinctiveness of site to express true characteristics of each region. So the vineyard was planted in 1999 in Valle de Uco, and it has, when we talk about soils, it is loaded. Ladies, I'm telling you, we can talk very briefly about soils, but they're so vast. But in this particular part of the region, in Campo de los Andes, it's deep soil, sandy texture, and mainly rocks. Again, we think rocks because we're at the foothills of the mountains, or on the mountain, if you will. So these are some of the, what's interesting about these wines, and then we can taste together as we move along. Yeah. And if I talk too much, you just because I'm a little cherry, if you haven't noticed.
Your excitement and passion is phenomenal. It's great. So what is the origin of the Malbec grape, and how did it end up in Argentina?
Yes. Well, I learned something here. Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, because I actually learned something here in this recently. So, but very little is known about the exact origin, to be fair. But in 1992, it was discovered that to be a sibling of Merlot. Now, I tell you, I did not know that until very recent. And it has a common mother, Madeleine Noir de Charente, while its father, it's Pugnard, like Pugnard Noir, and this is news to me, ladies, to be very fair, which is an ancient and rare blackberry that originated from Gaillac. I don't know if you guys know where Gaillac is, but I went to their Poitou Vert when I was living in Bordeaux. They have great sweet style. Like, it's more like a partner to they have like sweet Sauterne styles, like Bordeaux Semillon,
Oh,
that one. Not that conversation, but it's very neat. The arrival of the grape itself, it wasn't until the late 19th century that we kind of, actually in the late 19th century that Pruneyard was wiped out by phylloxera, right? So the grape that's native to the Malbec itself is what's native to the southwest region of France, more specifically Cahors, which is right by Bordeaux, and it's known as Cot. It's not the same Cot that you find in the Loire Valley, by the way. It's probably a sibling. I don't know much about the Loire Valley Malbecs, but again, this comes from the southwest region of Cahors, and it's known as Cot. So very, very cool, history in a sense, especially that it comes from Pruneyard.
Well, I'm just happy because it's kind of like, I call it the stepchild of Cab Franc, because I need to relate everything to Cab Franc. So it's because Cab Franc was the parent of Merlot. It's the same mother, that gave us Cot, which gave us Malbec. So if I can weave a way back to Cab Franc, it makes me very happy.
Oh, then you got to try some Cab Francs from Argentina too. I know that you're making them passarolas, but you really got to discover it. They're phenomenal.
I would love to.
Yeah. I'm sure we get you some samples.
Okay. I'll hold you to that. So Deb, Deb was starting to say about how did it get to Argentina?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. And that was my fault for interrupting you. I got so excited.
You got so excited. It's good.
I jumped right in. Well, actually, according to research, Cahors where Malbec actually originally was grown, right? Now, but according to tradition, the vine entered the region through the 2nd century, about 150 AD, from Italy. Now, it was introduced by the Romans, right? This is what we kind of put together through the research. Now, although we have to consider it may have come from other parts of Europe, right? So again, it's not very clear, but we know it's introduced by the Romans, or we think most likely was introduced by the Romans. But it really was the varietal that it was in Cahors where it really was cultivated, right? And where it acquired recognition, considerable recognition by the writers and the kings of the time. But it wasn't until 1853 that it made its way on the timeline to Argentina. And it was introduced by a French agronomist called Michel Pouget. And he was hired by the Argentine national government to oversee the management of our Quinta Normal of Mendoza, which is an agricultural quinta, right? And his role was to really lead in the education and planting and vinification of French varietals in Argentina. And Malbec was a major French varietal, right? It still is. It's not used as much in France, but it was one of the Bordeaux blends, right? So it was introduced officially in 1853, and that links into why we celebrate Malbec World Day, because Michel Pouget was actually appointed on April 17th. And so April 17th is Malbec World Day for us. And for us, it grew really well. But what's interesting to note is 10 years after it became our official, right? Official varietals that were cultivated in Argentina. In 1863, we have phylloxera hit France, right? So huge wiped out vineyards in France and throughout the world. But what happened to us is crickets, literally crickets. Because we have natural barriers, the Atlantic Ocean to one side and the Andes on the other, we were exempt from phylloxera. Now, we weren't the only one. Cyprus, Chile, and Argentina, because of our natural barriers, were immune at the time to phylloxera. So we have what we call pre-phylloxeric Malbec. So we have the original because the originals were wiped out, right, through phylloxera in Argentina. So the timing of how Michel Pouget and the government really worked together to define agriculture in Argentina, in essence, made us now have the original. So we are the original Malbec.
So as kind of a comparative aspect of it, how would you describe, and I know this is a difficult question because within Argentina, they vary so differently, which I'm going to ask a sidebar question here.
Sure.
Is it Argentinian or Argentine? What is the correct way to group people and grapes
It's
together?
funny, for years I've had the same question, but for wine, I just say Argentine wine. I say
Argentine.
Argentinian for the individual, for the person. Like I would say I'm
Okay.
Argentinian, but the thing would be Argentine, like Argentine wine, or
Okay.
even vino argentino, even better.
Okay. Oh, that I can do. Vino Argentino. I can do that.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. So Argentine wine, Argentinian people.
People.
Okay. So I know it's difficult because Argentine Malbec is different, and we'll get to experience this in a minute. But how would you generalize Argentine Malbec versus the French Malbec or Côte, or even how about us in California, our Malbecs compared to?
Okay, this is a very, like you said, very complicated question. As far as with France, it's more mineral structured austere. But Malbec is in Argentina. Let's go this way because our climate is very different, and we'll get to it in a little bit. Malbec is we have a lot of variety, a lot of intense color, shades of deep violet, aromas of red fruit, plums, cherries. I'm just generalizing here, right? So it's not. Because when we get to region, it's very specific. And so you have notes of plums, cherries, spices, minerals, and with oak aging, you bring out some chocolate, vanilla, tobacco flavors, and the mouth is like soft and persistent with sweetness and tannins. So it's very broad. But since 2000, Argentine producers have begun to focus on origin to give identity, to give a better understanding and interpretation of the Malbec itself. So we have had Malbec studies where they, about 18 or 20 wineries from north to south, pretty much grew the vines and treated them in the winery the same way. Mm-hmm. And they discovered really that they're all different. Sorry, there's a fruit fly in my office because I have...
Because you have Argentine
my wine over there. Argentine wine. And so what they determined that each region stylistically is different. So cooler climate for us, and this is where you use California, or where I guess cooler climate, Malbec may be more similar to Loire Valley, maybe because it's cooler climate. So a little more brightness, more refreshing acidity. That when you get to warmer regions or regions where it's more clay in the soil, they're richer, they're bolder, I like to say coastal, right? It's a French word, like meaning, they're more built. So it really, I can't answer that in a very straightforward fashion because they're as varied as the soil that they're planted in and the altitude that they're planted in. And so, but it's well-made Malbec tends to be dark perfumed wine with, blackberry and plum fruit. But again, is it aged in oak? Is it aged in barrels? Is it aged in concrete? And so you're a winemaker, you know. Guys, I know you want the answer. I can't give it to you. You got to drink a lot of Malbec.
It's all different between where you get it with the soil and the climate. And
yes.
What happens during the vinification process? So,
well, it's less about the vinification process itself. It's more about the soil, etc. We are mountain people, and if you ask a lot of winemakers, they say they make mountain wines. And so, when you take Mendoza, so again, this is kind of try to answer a question that has no simple answer, and just give you more depth of why Argentina and why you want to take a deep dive without me here, because there's so much to know, and I just touched the surface because I myself know the surface, right? But within Mendoza itself, there's about 5 regions, just Mendoza. So you have Valle de Uco, which is the premium, right? What they call the premium. Primera Zona, that's just where you find Luján de Cuyo and Maipú. Very different soil types, very different climates because they're very different altitudes. And then you have the northern oasis, the east, and the south. And so when you talk about soils, because we are in the Andes, and this is, again, for a geologist, is a gold mine. We have a lot of alluvial soils, and for those people that are listening that may not know what alluvial soils are, it's soils that are created by drags of river and ice melt. And as the water descends the mountain, it leaves around sediment, and it's millions of years of run, right? Of even on a daily run of water. And we have colluvial soils from the windstorms that came about. So what happens in the Andes Mountains and within these regions, you have different cones that are, and I shape them this way, right? And each cone have a different soil composition. So what's happening today when you're planting a vineyard, instead of doing a square, for example, like planting in a line, they've done thermal studies, so they're planting along by soil type, right? So again, I said this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's what's happening in Argentina, and I mean, to answer the question about Argentina and California, you take an elevation in Mendoza, right, as well. Take the soils aside, we know they're diverse, they're heterogeneous. You can be 5 feet away and have a different soil type, right? And that's what's so cool about the region. You have, 14 in Mendoza is 1,400 feet to 6,000 feet of elevation. Napa, the highest point is 2,600 feet, right? And that's Atlas Creek. Now, for people that are really wine geeky here, because I love talking about altitude, because I understand it. Like after all these years, I get it. For every time you go up the hill, it's 155 meters, which is 328 feet. You go up that mountain, a Celsius degree drop in temperature occurs. So you already jumped a different climate, right? So when you're talking about elevation beyond 2,600 feet or anything about 3,000 feet or 3,600 feet, now you have UV exposure that is impacted up the mountain, right? So I'm sorry, I'm deflecting here, but what's happening is when you, the higher you go up the mountain, not only you get cooler, you get higher concentrations of soil, of radiation, but that stops at, I believe, at 3,000 meters, the studies show. And what happens is that grape gets really dark to protect the juice inside, and so to protect the berries. So you have really dark, intense fruit, but since you're in a cooler climate, higher acidity. And that's not something you can achieve in Napa, for example, when you're just, the peak is 2,600, right? So when you start understanding the climatic differences, the exposure, the grade at which you are in the mountain, because depending what side of the mountain I'm going to move my body to, that's the exposure of sun you're going to get. So another thing to take into consideration about the style and how it impacts, Argentinian versus California, or more specifically Napa. In Argentina, we're an arid desert. We get less than 8 inches of rain per year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We have to irrigate. In Napa, you get an average of 23 inches per year. So again, that comparative, instead of answering how are they alike, is and how many ways are they different? Right. And so again, for us, and the water source, our water, our irrigation is snowmelt from the Andes. Everything is natural, right? There is like a full circle in Argentina of this. It's a whole, again, holistic, but again, everything is. It's more, the more we're just very stylistically different, that we can find in specific regions. Similar profiles, but that's why it's the world to discover. That's why you got to go down there and lick some rocks, as some winemakers do.
All right. So I think now it's time we start to taste.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So we're starting out with the Bodega Argentina.
Argento.
Yeah. So cheers, ladies.
Slancha.
Salud, we say salud. Or chin chin.
Okay.
Salud, chin chin. Yeah.
Well,
this one,
so much aroma.
I'm not going to talk about the wine. I'll let you ladies talk about the wine. I talked a lot about the region. I'm going to enjoy what you talk.
The spice is so strong.
The baking spice is incredible.
And this wine, the Argento, we were talking about the altitude of this wine. This one, what did I say was just about, again, that fruit fly, it's really distracting me, and I apologize. I usually don't have fruit flies in my office.
Was this the 2,600? Is that what you said?
Yeah, this one is between, Argento is between 3,200 feet to 3,500 feet above sea level. Okay. But this one is the one that's located in Luján de Cuyo, which is what we refer to the Primera Zona. So, it's crazy when we talk in Argentina about regions. We say Valle de Uco is more precise than Primera Zona, because in Primera Zona we actually we have two others. Well, actually, Valle de Uco has many other subregions, but this is the one where you're going to find the more. And now this is an organic wine, by the way, sustainable organic. It's made in a different way than the other wines are made, but usually you have that rounder. I feel like more, the beautiful fruit, right? At the same time, it's just,
absolutely
elegant.
Sometimes to me, Malbec it can be rough, rustic.
Yeah.
That's a better word.
Yep.
Rustic. This is got all of that spice that typically for us then leads to that rusticness that is either depending on your opinion, positive or negative. This doesn't have that rusticness. It's followed by the fruit versus that earth that can be there.
Yeah. What does this retail for in the States?
Oh my God, don't ask me this question because I do not have the pricing. Sorry. I would not know, and I'm so sorry. Would probably have to Google it because I don't know also if it's in every market. I know it's available, but I would not know, and each market would be different. But we're getting to a premium category, like an ultra premium.
Yeah. So along those lines, I do want to do a shout out to the wines of Argentina themselves, and the website. So can you just, before we forget, can you just give that website? Because there's a wealth of information on that website.
Huge.
Yes, it's winesofargentina.org. And there's a blog there, and they're very relevant if you really want to get nitty gritty. There's some fun stuff like what restaurants to hit, what wineries to visit. That's nice and cool. But there's really good blog content about the varietal, about the aging of Malbec, about and it's really well done. But we have really great content creators, and these are knowledgeable people about wine. The two individuals, I'm gonna give a shout out to Alejandro, Alejandro, and I'm not gonna say the last name, and Joaquin. Both are brand ambassadors, or when I say brand ambassadors, they're wine professionals, and they just have a amazing. They're tied into the wineries. They're extremely knowledgeable, and they dump the information in such a way that makes it very understandable, and they're not talking at you, they're talking to you, which for me, that's the big thing in wine, right? Like you want people to like the wine. If you talk out on there,
right.
And so, but yeah, winesofargentina.org, great information. There's downloadable presentations as well if you want to go by region. So if you go to where there's varieties, they give you information by region. If you want your own presentation, I'm going to send it to you ladies just so that you have it all together, because it's one instead of having 5 different downloads. But it's great information. And if you want to, even food pairings are there as well. So it's a great site.
Great.
So we have several people watching, but Michael was wondering, and I'm thinking that maybe he can find his answer on the website. He was looking for some other winery suggestions, or the labels, the wineries themselves from the Salta province. So is that a searchable thing on that site?
Yes. When you go to winesofargentina.org, you hit on the northern region, you hit on Salta, and then they'll give you all the wineries that are out there. What's really interesting about this region, thank you, Michael, for the question, is that there are not as many wineries as there are in Cuyo, which is basically our prolific, wine region. 75% of the wine produced in Argentina, or 85 of it comes from Cuyo. It's for the export market. It's only 3% from the Patagonia and the north. So, but there's not a lot of wine because they're higher altitude. It's harder to grow. The yields are less, but they have a spectacular wine. So if you get a Malbec from the north, try it out there. And again, they're just very deceptive when you see them, because you think they're going to be really, really big because they're so dark. But they're going to be really refreshing. So, but they are listed on the website. It is a great source. Sorry, I went long.
That's okay.
No, well, we're gonna go on to
wine number 2.
Perfect. Oh, the Ben Marco.
The Ben Marco.
Oh yeah, and this one was the one that's actually higher than the Bodega Argento that we just had. So this is from Los Chacaches in Valle de Uco, but in the district, the district of San Carlos. So it's Los Chacaches, which is within San Carlos, and so this is higher altitude than the Argento, and
it's darker.
Yeah. It's right. Again,
I'm going to do this, but people on watching aren't going to be able to see it. But it is.
I might be able to.
When I'm putting it in front of my white paper and my words, I can basically read.
You really can't tell.
Yeah, it is intense. It's an intense color. Yeah.
I can see my words on my paper through the Argento, and I can see there's something. behind the Ben Marco, but I can't read the actual letters. So this is a darker Malbec.
So as we taste the Ben Marco, can you talk to us about any dishes that wine and food pairings that will go well with Malbec?
Oh my gosh, everything and anything. That one I'm going to direct you to the blog as well. That in a very short sense, we do anything from asado, which if you're not familiar, because I didn't really explain, asado is our Argentine grill. We throw all the cow on the fire and eat it up. I mean, so it's amazing with chimichurri, but we can do asado, pasta, pizza, tamales, humitas, empanadas, sushi. Like we have wines that go with sushi because whether it be a Torrontés, for example, doesn't have to be a Malbec. So depending on, again, back to that regionality, the style of the wine is comparable, but we do have this food and wine pairing on the Wines of Argentina blog. So when you go to the winesofargentina.org, hit on the blog and do food pairings, and
there you go.
You will have all the
higher acid.
All the answer.
And higher acid
cooler
in
climate.
This wine. Yep. Higher acid in this wine. And I get a lot of cinnamon.
Yeah. And it's very different from the first.
Yeah. So different from the first.
The first had a little bit more fruit to it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you, am I the only one getting cinnamon?
I'm not, as they say, you're probably right. Again, for me, it's right today. I'm not. Doesn't mean it's not there. Like I just tell you.
Well, every palate's different,
right?
Yeah.
What are you?
But
getting
they do say women. They do say women have a better nose. By the way,
we do. I've written a blog scientifically proving it. So
I do get it's just a hint on the finish. Okay.
But it's very interesting because to me, it's a very distinct difference in acidity level for me. And it's not like it's at a balanced acidity. It's beautiful acidity, but this is a completely different wine. The aromatics are completely different.
Yes, completely.
I get a plum in here. But what stands out is the color difference and that acidity. This is livelier because that acidity is right up there.
Yeah.
This is content meeting reality, right? We were talking about higher altitude. It's really darker, but it's refreshing acidity. Like it's in the bottle, and it's so right. It's in the bottle. It's in the bottle.
Yeah.
And what I like, this isn't when you think about red wine. A lot of times people think it's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
This wine isn't heavy.
No, not at all.
This and like in summertime, I personally shy away from like a Cab, a Merlot. It's just with the heat, it's just too hot. This Malbecs are nice summer wine. This is very nice.
Yeah, and I think it's all that acidity, the cooler climate. And again, not to say that one region is better than the other, is stylistically they're so different that you can consume Malbec every day and not affect the surface, right? Because not just it's aside from the GI or the soil, it's the winemaker. So you can have comparable soil types, different winemaker who's a different interpreter of the terroir, and you're going to get that different wine. But one of the things I've learned too on my journey of loving wine. As a big wine consumer, they're not all, it's very, we think because stylistically in warmer climates, we have bigger wines, but we are warmer climate with cooler regions. And we don't think about that. That makes it, I can have a great wine. And that acidity makes it food friendly, right? That refreshingness. So, there's some wines, it's particularly Luján de Cuyo, none of them here. They're like, it's like one and done kind of thing. Because those are more age-worthy wines that we don't age, but they can be light in a sense, light and bouche, right?
I mean, very well structured, but it's it's not that heavy.
It's not a heavy, full-bodied wine.
Yes.
It's a medium palate, almost a medium minus palate. It's got all the fruit, it's got the flavor, it's got the acidity. And it's not screaming it in
It
your
has
face.
nice
It's
texture.
it's not bullying you into it.
I love that. Not bullying you. I'm going to use that. I am
All
going to
right.
use that.
You got it.
If that's okay, I will trademark it.
Absolutely. So as we move on to bottle number 3, so this Alta Vista, which is very cool, has a nice little diagram there on the back. Can you talk about are clones something that are important in Argentina? Like, we know that like
wow.
War lives on the fact that it's this clone, this clone, this clone, but is it a big deal in Argentina?
No, and the simple answer is no. But I can elaborate on that. By the way, so starting in the '90s, INTA carried out a clonal selection, and they achieved several clones like NB9 INTA, NB12 INTA. You're a winemaker, so you're more familiar with clones. Me, not so much. So for me, this is interesting, but I don't know how. But they're not commercially available in nurseries. What they found, right? And then the Mercier, again, we have a lot of French people through Mercier Nursery in Mendoza. They've developed a clonal selection, which resulted in, again, for winemakers, and clone 136, 501, 505, 506, 1713. But that all was obtained starting in 2010. So only the latter ones can be commercially found. And other companies have also developed their own clonal selection, like Catena and Tempest Alba. But in some cases, it refers to clones, especially foreign ones like Cat, if they were different from a local variety of Malbec or Argentine selection. Basically, the study suggests that from samples taken from 89, 2003, 2014, the local material, actually, our natural land, if you will, Argentine Malbec and French Cat are exactly the same strain. Okay. But it was agreed that in the case of Pinot Noir, there are differences, but for us, it's more the local material that has a greater impact on the varietal itself than the clone.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very cool. So, Deb, what do you think of this one?
Oh, I haven't tasted it yet because I let my dog in, and then
you had to let your dog out,
and then I had to let her out because it just wasn't working.
Oh, I thought you were the dog. Sorry.
No, she's just she's very needy. She doesn't like to be alone,
and she sees wine. She may be thirsty.
Yeah.
And,
so, again, this is a completely different wine. Again,
very different.
Well, we're here again. We're in Valle de Uco, same as the Ben Marco, right? It's Valle de Uco, but this is different. This is slightly lesser, lower down the mountain. We said what was about 30 up to 3,900 feet in the Ben Marco. This is about an average of 3,600 feet. Single vineyard production, single vineyard management. Type of soils are a little bit different. And it has some age. It's a 2018. So, and not organic.
Interesting.
Now,
it's the
what
oldest.
What is the ageability? And I might be going out of our order, but of Malbec.
Oh, I missed the question.
Sorry. What is the ageability? Because this is,
Oh, ageability. Well, here we go. The way the varietal is, each wines have an ageability, and I'm going to send you a link to that to not be ad nauseum. But our wines, because of their high acidity, and because again, even in Luján de Cuyo, you have the cool climate. These wines, most Argentinian wines, are age worthy. They can go anywhere from, and I have a chart too that I'll share with you ladies later on. Most of these wines are age worthy wines because of their natural acidity. Of how they're made, but they've made studies, and I'm trying to look at my notes here. They did a study on the aging process, and it was observed that over time, aging is a significant factor that affects the phenolic compound profiles studied in Malbec.
Yeah.
So after 5 years of aging, the wines could be differentiated among regions. So each region, because again of the microclimates themselves, they are worthy of aging. But you have wines that have an aging, like wines that are like more structured, what you call the racy Malbecs with dark fruit and notable acid, that may be chewy. Those have a tendency to age 10 to 20 years. Malbec that are dark fruit and some acidity or juiciness, moderate tannins. Obviously, some oak aging, they can age 7 to 11 years. And even those younger wines, there's some one you can drink now and even age up to 5 years. So the phenolic compound and structure of the varietal itself, it lends itself to aging. It's just not something that we do with a New World, right? It's something that we as consumers have to get around. Like, yes, you can age a New World wine, which we know we age in the Old World. So why wouldn't we translate that, right? So
Right.
they're age worthy. So
This has nice acidity to it.
Yeah, so I was going to say it's the oldest is 2018, but I think it's got the biggest tannin structure. It's the biggest mouthfeel of them. So kudos on choosing the order.
Well, it was as a French it was by luck because I'm like, this is very difficult. Aging is the way that I like to do it typically, but again, stylistically, it was bang on, but that was by luck, sheer luck, ladies. I'm not gonna let me. I'll be very transparent.
Better be lucky than good.
That's right. Exactly. I'm very lucky.
So this is going to be a loaded question also, but typically, is there a general way that Malbec is processed? Do we typically see it in oak? Are they experimenting with different types of oak? Do they like French oak, Hungarian oak? What are they?
Or even cement.
Yeah.
Well, actually, all of the above.
All
of the above. All of the above. And it goes to who's the winemaker. We have winemakers, a lot of French winemakers. And even in Argentina, typically it's French oak used over American and the majority of wineries. That being said, we have the Kafirs. We have the concrete tanks. We have it all. And there are particular winemakers. The vinification process, it's similar globally, right? There's not too much variation in vinification in the process of the winemaking. It's just how it is aged or not aged, or how it's stainless steel tanks. You have winemakers, again, interpreters of terroirs. That's why I like to call them. Some of these guys just really want to be true to the place that microcosm of their vineyard, and so they will age in stainless steel or concrete to make sure that they give that they don't harness or give any outer elements to the wine. So it's all of the above. And then you have these French wineries or even more traditional wineries that love to use the French oak to give some nuance, But again, it is a unique individual winemaker decision. And it doesn't follow a straight line. It's really the winemaker at the helm of that winery, right? And if it also becomes tradition, because if they have to rechange their everything to concrete or vice versa, it's an investment. So it's a gradual process for many of these wineries if they do change. So because it's capital investment, right, to make it practical, but everything under the sun, the methods are being done. I love to see the eggs; they're really cute, different size eggs. But very winery specific. Again, as diverse as the terroir we have in Argentina, and as excited as we are to get you to go there and visit and see that we are more than Malbec, and we are Malbec and then some within the Malbec.
Then some in the Malbec.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
are there any concerns when it comes to Malbec? So we've talked about how the winemakers are doing it, but is Malbec prone to anything? Are they? You actually kind of already answered that, because the way your geography is and your topography, you're pretty much naturally protected.
We are. We have very low fertile. I mean, we really stress the vines by nature, right? We don't get the rain to have fungus, right? We don't have. We have our natural barriers in the Atlantic, or the Pacific, or in Patagonia, which we haven't talked about. The winds are so strong coming off the Atlantic. Any pest or louse that can get on that vine gets blown away. It's blown to bits. It really does. So we are very fortunate to have really poor soils. right? They need the vine needs to thrive, and the elements are only the biggest risk for us is frost, and that's when you go up the mountain. That's the risk that you have. But other than that, the soil is so poor, which is so rich for us, that we don't have that concern, right? We have naturally protected land in a sense, given to us by nature. And one of the things that I find interesting is people sometimes ask about global warming. Well, we're going up the mountain. So in a sense, we're trying to mitigate in a natural way, right? Finding cooler climates and interesting ways to, I wouldn't say plant, but higher ways to plant and to manage the vineyard. So not really a
Trying to
concern
make
for
the
our particular part of
vineyards
the world.
thrive, make the grapes, the
Yeah.
vineyards thrive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the Atlantic is a little different because they're closer. Obviously, we're closer to water, so different impacts. So, but those are exploratory areas, right? So, I mean, but no main concerns because we're so blessed to have such, great terroir.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So if someone is looking to explore Malbecs for the first time, where would you direct them?
Okay. Well, let's see. I have. I'm gonna look at my notes here because depending on the region, you have again. You have
Like
a difference.
an introduction to Malbec. Somebody that's new that does not.
I mean, I'm gonna say that the first place to go.
Where would
Yeah, from Mendoza. You go to Mendoza. You go to Primera Zona. You go to Primera Zona, and you go to Luján de Cuyo and taste some wines from any of the wineries, and you're gonna have big rounder Malbecs. And then you go down to Valle de Uco, where you're gonna go to any winery down there. They're all different, and explore a different style, like cooler climate, higher acid Malbec. But every region has something to offer everyone. And if you don't have time to go to the regions, you go to and it escapes my mind. You go to oh my God, what Aldo's? I'm giving a plug to a restaurant that we work with in Argentina who has pretty much every wine on the planet. Or you go to Don Julio's, which have an amazing cellar. And you go there and you say, "Show me some wine," and
that's better than show me the money.
That's right. Like, okay, I don't think you need to show the money to get those wines, but no, but it really is. There is something for everybody in Argentina. There truly is. And for the new wine drinker, again, it's just a Mendoza Malbec will do. Again, it's a place to explore, and no region must go untouched, really. So if you have time, you should taste the 170
I like that. No region
and the two DOCs. So start there.
All right.
So what's the best way to travel to Argentina? Like,
you gotta fly out there.
Where would you fly into to get to like Mendoza and
two possible ways from the United States. I say for those North Americans. So either you go in through Chile. And you fly from Santiago to Mendoza if you want to go to the wine region, or you fly from the U.S. to Buenos Aires. There's no direct flights to either Patagonia or Salta, so you have to everything through Buenos Aires. So when you want to come down to Argentina from the U.S., first stop is Ezeiza. Take a flight to Ezeiza to Buenos Aires, and from there you take another flight to Mendoza, or the other regions. But you got to fly. There are direct flights from New York to Buenos Aires. I'm in Chicago. There's no direct flight. I either got to go through Dallas or Miami, get myself to Buenos Aires, and then get myself on a plane down to Mendoza. So it's a bit of a jumper, but worth it. Especially, again, the wineries, they treat their guests so well, and the wines are just fantastic. And just again, like I said earlier, the exchange rate is the time to go is,
I think I'm going to try and work that into my downtime this winter, which is your summer.
Yes, it is. We're opposite climate, right? So yes. Christmas is in the summer over there. So right now it's fall here. It's spring there. Oh no, it's not fall. What are we? We're technically
we're fall.
Getting close.
It's officially fall. Almost fall. It's spring there.
Fall is Friday.
It feels like fall here. Oh well, happy birthday!
Thank you. It's a big one. Cheers.
Oh, cheers to that. Cheers. Yeah.
Well, Veronica, I want to thank you for taking the time and coming on and sharing the wines and your knowledge and your expertise on wines of Argentina. And I want to thank everybody who came in and watched live. And, this is all going to get converted into the podcasts on both of our channels and YouTube on both of our channels, plus Winephabet Street. You always can go to winephabetstreet.com and see the videos there. But I just want to thank you. The wines were incredible, and it truly was like traveling through the glass, because each region had a very distinct, experience. The Malbec was very different within each one. And I love the fact that a single grape variety can express itself differently in the different regions. So thank you so much.
Yes. And your enthusiasm, you can't get that anywhere. If anything, anybody can get from this whole webinar is go taste a Malbec, pick up a Malbec, if you're new to Malbec, start with Mendoza. If you want a little bit more higher end Malbec, go to Valle d'Uco, and I suck at pronunciation. And explore the wines of Argentina, because there's a lot more than just Malbec. Although the show is based on Malbec, but Argentina wines are really wonderful. And thank you.
So I did save a little bit for our final goodbye. Thank you so much, Veronica.
Cheers.
And Slancha.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Chin chin. Salud.
Bye.
Gracias. You
Bye-bye.
too. Take care. Bye bye. Chin.